That would be the least thing that I would do. Like, I will never go back to high school. No thank you. I survived once. That's it. Alright, okay. Today was going to be one of those days where I was going to be super productive. You know, when you wake up super early, I went to the gym, then I get my haircut. Yes, I got a new haircut in case that you didn't notice. And after that, I was like, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos. I'm going to be doing a lot of drawings. But then I spent the last 2 hours watching episodes of Desperate Housewives.
Oh my god.
So basically, this is my attempt to actually do something productive today. Hello kiddos, how are you? My name is Edgar and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we're going to be talking about something that we actually don't want to talk about. That it's our guilty pleasures. Guilty pleasures are basically, in case that you don't know, the equivalent of eating a pizza. So it's basically something that you enjoy in the moment and you actually might do it in private more than once. But then when you have to talk about like what are your preferences and like what's your favorite food, you never say like pizza because not only makes you basic but also it's only junk food. No judgment, I love pizza. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about the guilty pleasures when it comes to books. So what is that book that you actually love reading and you read it maybe more than once, but then you will never recognize that you loved it that much? In my case, this list has to start with the number one, I think, that we all hide in our closet. And that one is going to be Twilight. Twilight is this series of books, they actually call it the saga of Twilight. This is the story about a guy that is called Edward, who is a vampire. He's like 300 years old, but for some reason he still goes to school.
Ahoy there, Dean. I understand you're taking suggestions from students, eh?
That would be the least thing that I would do. Like, I will never go back to high school. No thank you. I survived once. That's it. But for some reason, he decided to go like over and over. And I don't know why the school doesn't acknowledge that he's been there for forever. But the thing is that there he meets Bella Swan. Bella Swan is going to be the love interest. She doesn't know in the beginning that he's a vampire. So the whole story develops on regards of this whole situation and how he tries to protect her from the fact that eventually he will try to turn her onto a vampire. When I read those books, I remember that it was something that I did in high school. So just to generalize, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now.
Oh, you're so smart.
Back then, I didn't read as much. So for me, it was a very entertaining book and something that I really enjoyed. All of the characters for me were nice. They were like developing some actions. There were things happening all the time. So you always wanted to know what was going to happen. But then when I started to think about it, and actually when I saw the movies, I realized that it wasn't as nice as I remembered it. At this point, I remember more the movies than the book, so maybe I should reread it. But it's one of those things that I think maybe I shouldn't. Because the vision that we have when we're teenagers is pretty different than what we have right now. After you read a couple of books or after you live some other experiences in your life, you tend to recognize certain type of behaviors, so to say, like for example, toxic relationships. And this book is basically about that. One of the biggest memories that I have, as I say, I remember more the movies than the book, is the beginning of the second one that is called New Moon, if I don't remember it bad. And so kind of like to put it in context, in the first book, it ends with them that they have to take different paths just because he's a vampire and he wants to protect her and blah, 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 blah. In the second book, she realizes that once she is in danger, she is able to see him again. So when she realizes that, she starts to putting herself in more dangerous situations, like basically like trying to jump off a cliff. So yes, I will never admit that I love that book, or I will put it like on the top of my list, but it can be one of those books that I might reread at certain points just because of what I remember I was feeling when I read it for the first time. It gave me hope. Okay, if a vampire can fall in love, I want that as well. No, you don't. Then we come to the second book that is basically related to this first one that I said. And that one is going to be 50 Shades of Grey. I know, yes, I know what you might be thinking, but this is a video about guilty pleasures. So basically, no judgment here, okay? The one that I like actually from the trilogy of 50 Shades of Grey was the first book. You might think, why is it connected to Twilight? Because 50 Shades of Grey actually started as a fan fiction of Twilight. E.L. James. She started writing all these sexy version of what Twilight was. It became so popular that she changed the names, and there it goes. You have 50 Shades. And if you reread this book thinking on that, you're going to realize how many similarities are in both stories. Are both about toxic relationships, about possessive relationships, and the story becomes weaker the more you read. If you don't know what it's about, 50 Shades of Grey, it's about this girl that is called Anastasia, who decided to take the place of her friend to go on an interview. And then when she goes to this office, she meets the guy that is Christian Grey.
Mr. Grey will see you now.
And in the beginning, you realize that they're going to have something there. The plot twist in here is that he's very much into bondage. And what the books have that the movie doesn't have is like all this explicit content that you're going to live with these characters. What I hate the most about this book is that there's basically no story. And the things that are meant to be the plot twist or the things that will keep you hooked are so volatile. It can be sorted out in just 2 seconds, but they drag it out for 50 pages. But all the way that they meet, and he takes her on a plane to spend the night. All these things are my thing. I love when all these unrealistic things happen in books, but they're told in a way that it's meant to be like something that will happen to everyone. I love it. But yeah, I will never put it like in the top of my list. The third one that I can mention on this list is going to be The Hating Game, because it's a story that's been told before. If you think about it, all these stories from enemy to lovers, they're all pretty much the same. But the thing is that you know what is going to happen, and that makes you feel or vibe in certain frequency that is actually your comfort zone. You know how is it going to be developed, but still you want to enjoy the ride. And that's what The Hating Game provides me. Not only the book, but also the movie. I enjoyed the movie a lot.
Hating someone feels disturbingly like falling in love with them.
It's one of those books that if you are on a date or if you are talking with your friends about your favorite books, you might avoid to mention this one, or I will. Because even if the story is not bad and it's really well told, it's not a book that I think that will provide you with some surprise. It's actually something that you have seen before, but just because of that, it makes you feel very comfy just reading it or watching the movie. I promise you're going to love it anyways. I love every single page of this book.
So, what game should we play now?
The fourth book that I will put on this list is, I don't know if to say like duality, but it's the books from E. Lockhart, We Were Liars and Family of Liars. The thing about these books is that it's very much destined to a younger audience, but still it has something that keeps me hooked throughout it, especially the first one. We Were Liars is the story of this girl who always spend the summer in the summer house that they have with the family, and there's a bunch of friends that she has over there. But the thing is, like, one summer something happened to her. There was an accident that she cannot recall, and there's a lot of questions that come to her mind when she thinks about that moment of her life. And after that moment, she goes back to this house and tries to go over this trauma. I know, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it. It has like a really big twist. It has something that I never saw coming, and I love it because of that. But the book is written in a very simple way. As I said, it's destined to a younger audience than my age. So it will not be one of the books that I will recommend if I just met you and then you tell me like, what is your favorite book? We Were Liars. Like, I will not say that, or I will try to avoid that just because of the style in the writing. With that being said, very enjoyable. I really enjoyed the first one. I read it in one day, which never happens.
Sure.
One of the things, of course, that I liked the most was the plot twist that comes in the end, because it was something that everyone wants to talk about, but at the same time, you cannot talk about it when you just start in the conversation, because if the person never read the book, you can only say like, there's a twist. But I recommend you, if you haven't read it, just like I wouldn't admit that I love it as much as I do. And also the second book, Family of Liars, has also a twist, but it's not as good as the first book. That one is not my guilty pleasure. I just enjoy reading it because I wanted to stay in the cinematic universe of We Were Liars just a little bit longer. And the last book that is my guilty pleasure, and yes, I know what you will think, it's a book from Ellen DeGeneres. Seriously, I'm kidding. The book is very stupid in a way because it has so many jokes all the time and just takes itself not seriously at all. It just makes fun of the fact that she has to write this book and she has to tell all these anecdotes, but it's so stupid that it's actually good. And I reread the book like twice, I think. I bought it in an airport when we were on holidays with my friends. It was just one of those books that are just in the shelves and no one is even looking at them. This was before the cancellation and everything that happened to Ellen in these last couple of years. I read it and I was laughing out loud in the airport. And my friend was looking at me and she was thinking basically, you're crazy, so just can you please shut up? You're just laughing alone in a corner reading that book. It was super funny and I really loved it. Some books are meant to be things that you're going to reflect on yourself, on your life and that. Well, this book is just totally the opposite. If you haven't read it or if you have read any of the books on this list, just please leave it in the comment because I would love to see what you think about them. Or also comment, what are your guilty pleasures? What are those books that you will never admit you love? This is the wrap up for this video. I'm just going to cut it here because I just had an idea for another video that will come up in just a few days. If you haven't, just please press on the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you are notified every time that I upload a new video. Don't forget to check out my page and the Middle Kiddo on Instagram where I'm uploading drawings daily. And I'm also doing these videos about drawing and like what's the story behind these drawings. So if you want to follow up the series, again, subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next week. Mwah!